Hello everyone, I hope you are all keeping well. Welcome to your second video in Social and Human Sciences. In this video, inshallah, we will try to explain the concept of socialization, its types and meanings. So the theoretical part is represented in the definitions we are studying and trying to analyze together, and the practical part, which I have found most suitable and appropriate, is to be understood in the application of Quran, because it is like a manual for us to follow. Quran here is included in your studies not as a religious aspect only, but as a way of life. It is instructive and practical. So I'll try to explain Quran as religion and then shed light on the secular part, the non-religious side, which is represented and concretized in the social sciences or the natural sciences, in the way we live our life, we interact with other people and learn from them. As I explain, I want you to follow with me step by step and try to take notes, because all these lessons are related to one another. I'll try to bring into discussion the aspect of culture in Islam, in the idea of the white man's burden, the way it is attached to today's concept of socialization and Quran, and then later to the way Ibn Khaldun distinguished and made the difference between the two parts of a human being. Socialization is the process by which individuals learn the norms and values of society in which she or he is raised, and then learn about culture and develop character. Socialization generally is the opposite of isolation. It's one's ability to socialize, to integrate in society. It is the possibility and necessity of every one of us to make themselves functional, socially functional. It is to explore into yourself via understanding society, and then employ all the skills and abilities to live a healthy, balanced life. So as I try and attempt to explain and give examples here, I want you to think of yourselves as individuals before thinking of yourselves as part of this great social whole. Speaking of Quran here is very significant, because Quran addresses us as individual human beings. Every individual has to do his part of the bargain and then employs himself or herself in society to benefit others and then profit from them as well. When man conducts himself properly so that society functions, everything will be balanced. It is like a two-sided equation. One cannot function or exist without the other. Any human being needs to be socialized, and to do that, he needs to have a stabilized society, which is created by him and by his other social beings. Quran addresses us as individuals because we are not the same, we are different. And in that difference, we create the completeness. If you remember from the last video, I have mentioned something related to a crack in culture, imperfection in culture. It's the same with societies, and then it's the same with individuals. Any individual with incompleteness needs, or crack, needs another individual to fix that kind of crack, and then offers help through his new skill. In doing that, society becomes equalized and everything works in moderation. We are all familiar, of course, with the ayah which reads, Allah will not change the condition of a people as long as they do not change their state of themselves. From Surah Al-Ra'd, or the thunder, in Arabic, إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم. Here, I want us to focus on this aspect or word of أنفسهم, because it is from there that we are starting to understand the concepts of socialization, and then Ibn Khaldun and his famous discovery in social science. The idea of creation as well can be treated from this word أنفسهم, or themselves, because it is all about nafs. It is a kind of personality, say, or character that we have within. We need to really try to balance this inner side in order to be able to represent the outer, external side or personality properly. In Surah Al-Tin, the fig, God, glory to him, certifies that he has created man in the best of molds. لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم. And then there is another reference to أسفل سافلين. Of course, the entire surah and all these verses are interrelated. The fig and olives, the way man was created, and the idea of إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات. We'll try to bring all these concepts into the way things were explained in the secular, non-religious Western world, sciences generally, in order to understand. But I need you to always remember Quran and remember this idea of addressing the individual. In English it reads, we have indeed created man in the best of molds. Then do we abase him to be the lowest of the low, except for those who believe and do righteous deeds, for they shall have a reward unfailing. Here we have a two-sided story, the physical aspect and the mental one. Physicality and mentality are both significant because they shape the human being. Our mind is important because everything is originated from the inside out. It is our way of contributing to the world. But today we are focusing on the aspect of the outside in. How do we acquire and grasp other people's behavior, mentalities, thinking, and opinions? Because it's our mind which dictates the actions to our body and then to our personality. There is a difference between the best of the molds and the lowest of the low. Man can be in its or in his higher positions or in his lowest positions. It's for him to decide. There are rules to be adapted and followed in order to succeed into this higher position. If we break them, we will definitely lower ourselves, especially on the mental side of things. God, glory to him, has sworn by the fig and olive in the way man was perfected and bettered and then elevated in creation. Creating man to be powerful, acknowledgeable, talking, hearing, seeing, and most importantly, wise, was aligned with the creation of the nutritious foods that would help him maintain the physical and mental strengths. Because, subhanallah, figs and olives are good for our liver, kidney, skin, gums, bones, and memory. And because man is created perfect on both levels, the surah of the fig revolves and discusses the subject of creation and the way God created the finest molds and the processes of either development or lowliness. God created us complete and elevated above all creatures, including animals or other physical aspects in the world, but then he sets a manual for us, a book for us, a guideline, which is representing instructions for our development or our failing or failure. The best of molds here speaks about the physical strength through foods, etc., but it also focuses on the things which are beyond the material creation, the mind, the way our mind functions. As life is represented in its macrocosm as the full picture and the complex, featuring Allah's power and greatness, he compares us to the world around us, this universe, this great cosmos, which is broader and greater, but it functions, subhanallah, as the human body, and it is managed by God, similar to the way man's body mechanisms are supervised. In spite of his trivial, insignificant, unimportant position in comparison to the greatness of the universe, man's ability to think proves more important. Man's mind is a faculty which God created in him to elevate him from other animals and objects around him, including the universe. He then has to put those faculties into practice by following God's law and right path, and never use his mind to do evil and abase himself lower than animals, becoming unable to think, decide, or choose properly. Because we are considered and created as the best of molds, different from animals and other objects, we are honored to socialize and use one's mind to learn from each other, acquire skills, and better ourselves through the rules and norms we follow. What are then the people and institutions that help us socialize? The first most important one is the family, which is identified as the primary socialization, because it stands as the first experience with language, values, beliefs, behavior, and norms in society. It is from our family, our parents, our relatives generally, that we are learning the way to speak, the way to behave, and to think about people and about society. The French sociologist Pierre Bourdieu defines this as a cultural capital because it identifies the relationships between individuals. It is the non-financial asset that helps one succeed in the world. It is a kind of capacities, abilities, skills that one acquires in order to interact with others. Gender socialization is also important because it deals with learning the psychological and social traits associated with boys and girls, and the way to be socialized differently by reference to our gender identity. Men or male's behavior is in every culture and in every society different and distinguished from female behavior. The way we socialize by reference to gender is important because it is through the way we represent our behavior as males or females that we represent our personality and we contribute into society. Racial socialization is another type of socialization. It refers to behaviors and values which are associated with racial groups. Here, this kind of socialization contains specific messages and practices concerning one's nature or racial and ethnic status. For example, the Afro-Americans in the United States are differently treated in society because of their skin color. They are not afforded the same jobs they are not treated as similar as the white race. Class socialization, on the other hand, is identified by reference to values, traits, and behaviors that one is abide to when referring to their social class. It is then the social class that imposes certain types of behavior. The example of Kate Middleton here, the Duchess of Cambridge, who is also from a noble family, but the moment she got married to Prince William, she was obliged to obey certain behavior and drop other kinds of norm and values, for example. Adopting, in so doing, a new type of behavior, class behavior, to fit her new status and new position in society and in the royal family. Secondary socialization is the most important one after the primary socialization. From the family learning of behavior and values to the second family, which is the school. It is a kind of socialization which happens outside the home. It includes the social world at large and school in particular. This secondary socialization does not mean writing, learning about maths or geography or any other subject in school. So it goes beyond teaching the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. It goes further to what is known as the hidden curriculum. The hidden curriculum is the unintended curriculum, which consists of those learning experiences, both negative and positive, and that are not part of the explicit curriculum, but that result in changes in the attitudes, beliefs, and values of students. Hidden curriculum here means that the set of behavior and actions that occur at school or at school surroundings in general, these behaviors affect children because the child at a certain point in his life becomes an observer, someone who is learning from other people's way of speaking, of behaving, and even the way of thinking. And their lifestyle becomes copied by this child who is yet unable to know the right from wrong, the negative from the positive. Teachers must be aware of this hidden curriculum being communicated in class, because it's always through behavior and through the way kids speak and convince one another. A child is like a sponge. He or she is in the stage or will be in the stage of absorbing, taking in, and imbibing behavior. The way they take in the behavior is a projection into the self. He is just learning and fostering, adopting as his or her own new style of life. And for this, parents have also to be vigilant and careful about the way their children change, in the way they speak, the way they behave, and the way they think. Because when they adopt a kind of behavior from someone, it's very difficult to change and convince them out of it. The hidden curriculum is not shown, unfortunately. It's not explicit. It's not taught. It is acquired. Here it is a kind of socialization which is based mainly on nurturing, acquiring behavior. It doesn't happen only at school, but it also happens on the level of media, because media is everything that we consume, and it is considered as a part of socialization. There is a kind of study which confirms that a connection between excessive television viewing in early childhood and cognitive, language, and social emotional delays is manifested in the child's behavior. Of course, television can influence positive things and positive attitudes concerning life and social issues, especially when they are meaningful and goal-oriented. But it can also hinder and holds up one's cognitive, mental, and linguistic abilities, because our experiences of the world is only reduced in the virtual, non-realistic dimensions of the digital aspects. Here we become retarded, and this stops and limits our social interactions and communications. We then become enclosed and socially unable to project our skills, because it is difficult for us to put them into practice. Total institutions and re-socialization is also considered a type of socialization. Total institutions, for example, are organizations and settings where individuals are completely cut off from the outside world. They have strict rules on the way people must behave, sleep, eat, and dress. The term, of course, was coined by the Canadian sociologist Irving Goffman to refer to people whose environment is totally controlled by the ones in charge. This encourages a person to develop a new set of norms and beliefs, forgetting the previous ones. Social institutions and the idea of re-socialization is known mostly in places similar to the army, psychiatric institutions, and prisons, as well as boarding schools. The idea of total institutions and re-socialization may be positive or negative. Generally, re-socialization is the process by which one's sense of social values, beliefs, and norms are re-engineered. Here, individuals are mainly redefined to be inadequate according to the norms of a dominant institution. Resocialization is twofold. First, institutions erode, which means to destroy, identities and independence by getting uniforms, haircuts to be imposed, and assigning serial numbers or code names to replace the residents' given names. And it starts as a systematic attempt to build a different personality or self through a system of reward and punishment, by breaking one's old identity and get them into conformity through changing behavior to fit the one expected. Resocialization may also be applied on the ones who have never been socialized properly, similar to feral children. This can cause them to be either hostile or rehabilitated in the way they get along and walk through the operation. The idea of resocialization here can be positive or negative. It can be positive when the person being resocialized has been defined to be harmful, deviant, or feral to society, wild to society. Because prisons generally and the psychiatric institutions or boarding school in general or the army can teach you discipline and good things. But it can also harm and stigmatize your identity by imposing certain rules in order to destroy a personality. So socialization is a process of integrating in society, and resocialization can mean either to change a given behavior that existed before through adapting certain norms and new values and rules that are imposed or suggested by new institutions or the people in charge, or it can mean to help people to socialize again. It can be a re-socialization that can happen after the family socialization, when people are generally timid or reserved or shy to meet people or to interact with people. So when identifying the concept of socialization and re-socialization and the way any human being or any child would be integrated and socialized in a given society, I want to sum up here and come back to the idea of the finest of molds and the lowest of the low, and help you understand that we are all obliged to follow a certain set of rules, social rules and godly rules, in order to function properly. Because Quran is not only the manual that we should adapt. Quran is the manual, is the book that we should follow in order to properly behave. Allah gave this book, this manual to us to function according to its commandments. Here we are then seen as machines, a functioning machines. We need a certain type of instructions in order to march, in order to function properly. We are a talking, seeing, wise machines. We have the mind to reason and to understand and to choose the right from wrong. I want you to think of yourselves as a two-sided human being. A human being with an inner self and an outer self, with a hidden self and a shown self. Your outside personality that you are showing to people is only projected because the inner character instructed it on the way to behave. Your mind is dictating the adequate guidelines in order to behave according to certain values and norms and to God's obligations. Because as a member of society, we all need to obey and follow what best suits us to bring the balance and make the equation of socialization work in a healthy atmosphere. We are interjecting into our characters new ways of thinking and acting, and then our mind processes and organizes data, selecting what's right to us to live according to. Living righteously, then, will prevent us from reaching the lowest of the low and the lowest stages of behavior, and resemble in this animals, because we are all elevated by the faculty of the mind that Allah granted us. We are all diptych characters, two personalities, two characters in one. We are all a double-sidedness in creation. This is created by God. It is both physical and mental. It is how the human being is shaped. It is simply who we are. This is all for now. I hope you find this useful, inshallah. I thank you very much for watching, and I really apologize for speaking too much and taking too much time. If you have any questions, please contact me on my email or leave a comment in the comment section below. We will be trying to link this idea of socialization and the two-sidedness of man into what is coming into Ibn Khaldun's great discovery, Ilm al-Imran al-Bashari, and how he could understand the human being as being a two personality in one character. I'll be seeing you inshallah, and salam.